Hey everybody, it's another day in the motel due to weather. So I wanted to take this time during this little zero that we have to take and do a video about gear. Uh, I am a amateur hiker trying to do the Appalachian Trail, and in my 3 days of hiking, I have learned a lot of different things. I just kind of want to share this for anyone who's watching, looking to get some gear, and also for myself as a reminder so I don't forget. The most important gear on the Appalachian Trail to me is your rain gear. Your rain gear should be fitted for you properly so that it's not over cumbersome, that can work for you. And I took some advice from hikers, and everyone sings the praises of frog togs. I have was given to me a frog tog jacket, which is very nice. Its camouflage has really good zippers on it. Never had a problem with it. However, the frog tog pants, as you can see, this is the cheap $25 set you get from Walmart. This is the right pant leg. On the first day of trail, I kept my Sawyer squeeze in my right pocket to keep it warm. Even though I hadn't used it before, I want to make sure that membrane was nice and warm and nothing would freeze or cause the filter to be hurt. And it wore a hole right through those frog togs. Once the hole started, nothing stopped it. Now there's holes on the front, on the left, on the back. Get yourself a good pair of rain pants. If you're in an emergency, frog togs will work beautifully. Like I said, the jacket is amazing, but the cheap $20 pair is not going to last you on your very start of the Appalachian Trail. At least for me, it didn't. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing is uh, you're going to wear gloves on the Appalachian Trail, depending on what kind you like. I personally like the kind that goes from a mitten to your fingers. Now, these are fingerless gloves because I'm trying to do things with my phone, like with gut hooks, and I've noticed that none of the gloves I've tried, even say touchscreen compatible, ever work. So, what does work is if you have your hand on your fingertips. Your fingertips always work for your phone no matter what. When I bought these gloves, these are the Black Diamond gloves. They're mittens as well as fingerless. The mitten part is water resistant. I even put the mitten on, dunked it into a bucket of water, and never had any problems with it. However, hiking all day, you're sweating. We were hiking through rain and snow. Eventually, the mittens get a little bit wet, not as bad. However, the rest of the material of this glove constantly gets wet. And when we slept at the Springer Mountain shelter, I had these gloves out, even though it's almost freezing, or at one point it did go below freezing. I tried to have it up in the rafters, and it just became a block of ice. Now, once you put your hand back in the glove, this thing becomes flexible again. It's not rock hard, and it can dry itself out. Unfortunately, if you're trying to use gloves to sleep in, like I was trying to, they will not offer you any extra warmth. So just something to keep in mind. Get yourself a true pair of water resistant gloves, or maybe if you're going to try and sleep in gloves because you want extra warmth, get a different pair. Get a dry pair, keep them in your dry sack with all your dry clothes, something to keep you nice and warm. Up next, I want to talk about my buff. This is my buff that was gifted to me through family. They did some research and chose the right one for me. This is really lightweight. Fits beautifully around my neck, doesn't choke me. It's quite breathable. One of the best things about it, I can't feel the wind. If we're hiking on one side of the mountain that is just sheer wind the whole time, there is no feeling of the wind whatsoever. The downside to this is once it gets wet, it gets all the way wet. It soaks it up like a dry towel. Just no matter what you can do, it's gonna get wet. When I would have it covering over my face, it just you could feel the moisture coming around it. But dries out really quickly and very comfortable, and it's great, especially if you have it around your neck all the time. Extra warmth. you meet another hiker because of COVID, maybe they don't feel comfortable, you can pull this up over your mouth and nose. You can still breathe fine, and everyone's okay. Especially going into town. When we came into Best Western, they were wearing their masks, so you pop this up real quick. Everyone's okay. Everyone likes you. I have amazing, amazing time with this buff. And another piece of gear I want to talk about that didn't know if I was going to take with me or not is this. This is a Zippo hand warmer. We had never tried these before. My uncle got them for me and himself for Christmas, and just to see how they work. And it's really simple. You got your top comes off, the actual place that holds your ember, and then your fuel canister. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews on the amount of time that you get out of these things. They do give you a cup you fill up, and it's supposed to be 12 hours at a certain line. You fill up your wick, put it in there, then you have to hold the lighter on it for about 10 to 15 seconds. It takes a little while to get going. Once it gets going, it produces a lot of heat. When you're in the mountains, a lot of heat does not mean hot. A lot of heat just means it's not cold. But the biggest thing with this is it was a lifesaver. Once we got into camp and you're sitting in your bed and maybe you're starting to get the chills, or maybe you want to try and dry out your socks or something, light this thing up. You can put it in its fireproof bag while it's still plenty of air to come through it, and it will just keep everything nice and warm. During the night I got extra cold, so I took this, put it in my buff right up against my neck and then right up against that artery, and it just keeps you feeling warm. When I woke up in the morning, I'd put this in my socks, get my socks a little bit warmer, and I finally realized to put this in my gloves, and it warmed up my gloves. So it's a little heavy. It's not unreasonable. The only thing is that you have to have Zippo lighter fluid, which we found out the hard way. It's not the easiest thing to come across. So if you're thinking about bringing one of these, bring yourself a full container of lighter fluid. You can get them at REI for like $3. We found a Food Line that was selling them. Walmart was completely out. The gas stations were completely out, but we were able to get an extra one. And one container of fuel will last you about eight days, depending on how much you're trying to use. If you're trying to overfill it, underfill it. But an amazing piece of gear. I would definitely bring this on, no matter what the weight requirement is on it. I would absolutely bring this again. And the last thing I want to talk about on my gear is your quilt, or my quilt that I'm using specifically. It is a down quilt. It's nice and puffy, but there's a few problems, and part of me didn't want to bring this up during the video, but this has been an amazing shakedown hike to go to find out how to properly use your gear. First thing I want to talk about with the quilt is you can see on here that there's lines sewed into the quilt. When you get the quilt, it doesn't come with those lines sewed in, so the down feathers, sometimes they'll stick to one side or another and it won't be nice and even. You can try and fluff it up, but it's not going to help you. So I had a family friend of mine go through, and she is very skilled with the sewing machine, and she actually divided up the down feathers and sewed these lines. And so now whenever I fluff it up, you can see those 3 perfect segments everywhere that you go with it. She did an amazing job, and it definitely kept me warmer than I thought it was going to. Now, however, no matter how great of a seamstress you may have to make your down quilt warmer, it does not work if you don't properly use the quilt. This is the foot side of the quilt. This is where your zipper is. This is where your extra connections go, where you can button it up and then you can come through the end. Well, one thing that I never figured out was how to cinch the bottom piece like it is now. So before, I would put on my sleeping bag liner with all my dry clothes on top of my air mattress, and I would put this, zip it up and put it over my feet, and all night long it would move off of my feet. Whether I would kick it off or it would fall off, I could never get comfortable. I could never stay warm. And that was because my uncle had to finally look over and show me and tell me that these 2 cinches right here, you have to cinch them up nice and tight, and then it will stay around your feet. You can actually interlock your feet in there, and that's where all your warmth is going. So my night on Springer Mountain Shelter uh, could have been a lot better if I had properly known how to use my gear. Um, so that is just another quick reminder. After doing that, we tried it out again. This thing is so warm. It is so warm once you know how to properly use your gear. So, another thing I wanted to bring up was I have a water bottle holder, two of them on the front of my pack. This is Coyote tan color style right here. And after 2 days of hiking on trail, you can probably see it now, but that has just completely come off. It's hanging on by two threads. So one thing I'm trying to do now is get in touch with the company, see if they'll send me a replacement, because I've had it on trail for 2 days and it has just fallen apart. No idea why. However, the other one has stayed together pretty well. So, but yeah, that was just a quick little shakedown of what gear I had and what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. But yeah, so this is a good learning step for me. And the last thing I want to say is we went to REI and got the majority of our gear from REI. And I'm carrying the REI Osprey Atmos 65 liter bag. It's an amazing bag, fits wonderfully, had so much good times with it. One of the cons, however, was this is your pack rain outside liner, meant to keep all the rain off of you. And this is designed for 65 liter pack. And unfortunately, 65 liter rain cover and 65 liter pack do not mean the same thing. It took every ounce of energy and strength I had to stretch it over the correct way you were supposed to. We had to finagle with the straps some. My uncle, one of his straps broke on his bag, and thankfully we had an extra carabiner so we could make it work. So when I get back to an REI, I will be returning that and getting an upgrade to the 65 to 80 liter, just having that extra room encouragement to keep my pack nice and dry because it was not doing the job. But that's one of the things you learn on a shakedown hike, is that you learn how to get the right gear going. If you have any problems with your gear, you can figure them out. So, but yeah, that's the update, and I will let you guys know if anything else changes soon.